So welcome everyone to the January 19th East Richmond Heights Municipal Advisory Council meeting. I will begin by taking the roll of the members of the MAC. So I'll proceed with that. John Sargent.
I'm here.
Okay. Victoria Curtis.
Here.
Stephanie Dyer. Not here, apparently.
She said she'll be a little late. She's got, I think, a work conflict, but she plans to be here a little later.
Great. And Jinwei Zhang, I do not see her yet. James, have you heard anything?
I have not.
Okay, and myself, Joanne Pavlonek. So 3 of the members are here. First thing on the agenda is the election of officers for 2022. And I was just going to move it along. I wanted to nominate John Sargent as chair and Victoria Curtis as vice chair.
Sounds good to me.
Oh, you do you? Okay.
Do we have a second?
I was going to say, we need one of you to second.
Well, so you made the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Can I second myself, James?
Yep.
Okay. What am I getting myself into? I'll second.
You'll love it.
And I promise it's not labor intensive, not too much.
Well, no, I've had a few dress rehearsals. So.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I'll take the roll. Myself, yes. Victoria Curtis.
Yes.
And John Sargent.
Yes.
So motion passes unanimously. And John, I'd like to just hand the meeting over to you.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you all for your trust in me. So I'd like to go to James. Do we have any minutes of the last meeting?
No, we don't, but they are written. They're part of this big report that I'm putting together. Everything's written, but it'll all be there for March.
Okay.
Everyone that we've got outstanding going back a couple years.
Well, yeah. And then the last meeting we did record, you're going to post that too on the county site?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hey, let's go to Treasurer's report, James.
$3,000.
So that's the same. Nothing's changed.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. I need to, oh, there we go. I didn't have all of my windows open here. So next we've got our presentation by Sheriff's Bay Office, Lieutenant Buford.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Happy New Year's. Okay, so for the month of December, you guys only had 57 calls for service. The good thing is no reported violent crimes, no thefts, or no burglaries were reported to the Sheriff's Office for the month of January. So it's pretty good, just status quo, regular little calls for service and service to citizens. You guys didn't have anything really going on up there, which is actually a really good thing. So far as my phone line, I didn't have any complaints come in. So that's also a good thing. With that, before I take questions, I'd like to introduce us good and bad. The good thing is I have my replacement, who's Deputy Mark Rodriguez, who's coming on board as the new base station area commander. So from this month and going forward, he'll be representing the Sheriff's Office at base station. I'll be moving on to AC Transit. Very experienced and a really good guy. You guys are really in good hands with him. So,
good evening. Nice to meet you guys. I apologize. I'm having technical difficulties with my video streaming. That's why I joined Lieutenant Buford at his computer, just so you guys will be able to put a face with the name. I look forward to working with you guys, and I'm sure we'll be in communication quite a bit.
Could I ask a question? I know we didn't have any incidences, but do we have any homelessness up in East Richmond Heights, unincorporated county? Do we have? I'm all over the Bay Area being a realtor, and I'm in Oakland and Berkeley a lot, and all over Richmond. I'm just seeing tons of encampments everywhere. I really haven't seen them up here in the East Heights. Have you?
I have not, ma'am. I haven't got any real calls or stuff about problems up there in East Richmond Heights.
Okay.
With that, I'll open up questions to the board first.
Okay, so do any of the committee members have any comments or questions for the Sheriff's Department?
I just thank you for being with us for as long as you have. And we look
Thank you.
forward to our new person here, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Actually, I do have one more question. One or two meetings ago, we were talking about getting an extra sheriff or sharing an extra sheriff with El Sobrante or something. Is that still in the works?
That will be something that will have to come out of the supervisor's office, ma'am. I don't know.
Okay.
Yep, Victoria, there is still a plan that resident deputy program would be a tax, and kind of finding the right opportunity in the right place and things like that takes a little time. The pandemic pushed a lot of that, because a lot of the effort to get something like that on the agenda and pass takes, kind of physical folks kind of walking neighborhoods to speak to their neighbors. Couldn't really do a lot of that during COVID. So some of that, the brakes were put on, but I will talk to John about that. I'll talk to him tomorrow about it. I'll put it down as part of my discussion with him for my minutes tonight.
I feel a lot of situations, I feel like there's not as much police representation. Yesterday, I was at REI in Berkeley at Gilman and San Pablo. I was buying some running shoes, and after I purchased them and I was walking out, this man was trying to take a bicycle. He was literally trying to steal a bicycle. He was coming up the stairs from the lower section, and a woman employee was trying to stop him, saying, "No, stop, you can't take that, you can't take that." And he kept pushing through her, and I was in front, and then another employee tried to stop him, and he finally said, "Get out of my way," to me, because he was trying to escape. And he said, I have a gun, get out of my way." And I was like, of course, I got out of the way right away. I don't want to be shot. But I noticed that both employees, they put some effort into stopping this theft. REI bikes are not cheap. He had a really nice bike there. They both made an effort, but I can understand when you have a retail job, you're not going to put your life on the line over a bicycle. So neither one of them held him down or anything. And then he just rode off, and they immediately called the police to identify the bike and the person in which area. But I'm hearing from a lot of my clients and friends that they don't feel like there's as much response, and things are slower, and they don't feel as safe anymore. I don't know if anybody else is feeling that right now during COVID, especially my, single women, older women. I have worked with a lot of senior citizens. They're just feeling compromised and feeling insecure. So anyway, I've never had a problem with the sheriffs responding quickly when I needed them. So hopefully that's still the same.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, any other council member? Joe, I just want to say congratulations, I think. I know I'll see you again later this year at some of the sheriff's posse things.
Yes, I'll still be involved.
I just wanted to state that I'm afraid that we are still seeing on Nextdoor social media that we still have got some crimes that maybe are still not being reported to you. And I preach that all the time. If you don't report it, it never happened. We still have got catalytic converters being cut off of cars up here.
I was going to ask about that because a lot of my friends have gotten theirs stolen.
I'm looking at the reports, and no, I don't have it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to make an effort with Nextdoor in just our territory to get that out again. And when I see people, they're reporting something, or these strange people ringing doorbells in the middle of the night, I will, push to get them to report those.
Yes, please do.
Anyone from the public that would like to ask any question or make any comments? Joanna.
Yeah,
Joanna.
I just wanted to add that from our last meeting, we did talk about the catalytic converter issue, and some of the suggestions that we did receive, I believe, from the sheriff's office is to keep the space around your house well lit at night, and keep your cars parked in a place that's well lighted. And the question was also asked about engraving something on the actual catalytic converter, and we were informed that in most cases, if they're going to steal it, they're going to just brush that out somehow So it may not be an effective way to deal with it. And I think there was the question as to whether there was something out there mechanical that would lock your catalytic converter in more completely to the system so it can't be stolen, which I don't know the answer for, but I just wanted to reiterate those couple of things for people who are listening.
I'll find out. My mechanic, Marty, who used to own Marty's Motors in El Cerrito, he's retired now, he's 76, but he got his stolen from his Prius. So he was very upset because they're like $3,000 or $4,000. But I'll ask him if he was able to brace his new one in without, being able to steal it again. He probably had an idea. I'll find out and let you guys know next time.
Thank you.
Eleanor, I saw you raise your hand.
Oh, I just wanted also to say thank you for all your work here and congratulations on the new position.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And we welcome a new person to step into your shoes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, John. Thank you,
Our
everyone.
president- Okay,
All righty.
thanks, Joe.
Thanks, John.
Next one is presentation by the Highway Patrol, Officer Baza. I don't see him here.
Yep. So I am going to cover the next two presentations, and basically they're updates. So for the Highway Patrol, I'm going to share with you a portion of an email that I got from Carl Abernethy, who is one of the other officers that covers this part of the East Richmond Heights, Montalvin, Rollingwood, and North Richmond. So I emailed him because I hadn't heard back from Officer Baza. So he wrote and said, I hope all is well, and this email finds you, your family in good health. I wanted to inform you that Officer Baza and I are no longer assigned to the Oakland area CHP office. Officer Baza, as I mentioned, I think in our October meeting, was injured. He had a torn Achilles and has since been assigned to the Bakersfield area. So he's not even in this area any longer. Carl Abernethy, Officer Abernethy, has been reassigned to be a background investigator. He also went on to share that due to a shortage of personnel at the Oakland area office, as of now, there will not be a designated officer to fill the community-oriented policing position. So Officer Baza, Carl, that was the role that they filled outside of the officers that patrol this as a beat. Those were additional eyes in the community. And the same thing is happening in the Martinez division, which covers El Sobrante. The CHP has some new recruits that they plan to send this way, but a lot of the more experienced staff are heading up to Sacramento and to some other offices, to some other locations. So I emailed Officer Abernethy back and asked him, who's the point of contact, a lieutenant, a sergeant, or someone. So I'm waiting for him to get back to me, but he will get back to me to let me know who is overseeing our area now that he and Officer Baza are out. So I don't have an update in terms of numbers, but this is a very significant update. The CHP has been dealing with some staffing concerns for some time, and it's, sort of rising to a head at this point.
And who is this one that doesn't have a name? There's just a phone number. Do you know who that is on the screen?
No, I'm gonna go bother him. So that's the CHP. I'm waiting for a contact for that, and then once I get that, I'll share that with everyone. And then let's see, and then the fire chief's report. So dated January 18th. This is from Fire Chief Louis Broussard, the fire chief of all of Contra Costa Fire Protection District. There's an annexation update. The annexation initiative with East Contra Costa Fire continues to move through the LAFCO process. We are expecting the sphere of influence change to be considered by LAFCO on January 12th and the annexation application to be considered at a LAFCO hearing in February. We continue the ongoing planning process and have held 2 organization-wide webinars to keep our members informed. Support from Measure X funds, assisting with both fire station construction and reopening, apparatus procurement, and staffing, which will further support the annexation. Pinole Fire Contract for Service Initiative. We held an initial discussion with the city manager, fire chief, and LAFCO staff early this month. Additional steps in pursuing a contract for service are in process. Measure X funding is providing critical support for this initiative. We will continue to work closely with Pinol's City Council, City Manager, and Fire Chief to pursue this option, which will enhance fire service capabilities in this West County community and serve to better support the Battalion 7 arrangement there. There's an EMS update. The spike in Omicron variant COVID cases early this month put considerable strain on the entire emergency medical system from dispatch to response and transport and emergency rooms. This resulted in increases in demand for service at a time during which staffing challenges were being experienced as a result of employee infections. The EMS division considered and implemented a number of mitigating factors to ensure continuity of EMS operations during this challenging period, which we expect to moderate in the coming weeks. And there's a little more there. We obtained approvals to utilize basic life support ambulances as augmentation to advanced life support units to provide much needed additional transport capacity. The LIMSA authorized a revised policy to treat and refer certain patients at the scene without transport to the hospital. We've received authorization to use non-911 system basic life support resources from other providers, as well as authorization to use our firefighter paramedics as the primary patient care provider as needed to effect transport to the hospital in the absence of normally available ALS resources. Let's see. Okay, and then the last two things. Okay, the new Amanda software, I'm not sure if that's an acronym or not, the new Amanda software that supports issuing permits, scheduling inspections, and organizing all the inspection reports went live in December. We are still working on cleaning up the database and ensuring all the current records with active permits were successfully migrated into the system. Fire Inspector 1 recruitment began the first week of the Fire Inspector 1 recruitment began the first week of January to fill 4 current bureau vacancies. Fire Inspector 2 vacancies were filled by 2 internal Fire Inspector 1 promotions early in January. Inspectors Taylor King and Joe Bergueno were promoted. And lastly, the Communications Center is monitoring the current spike in COVID cases and working hard to keep staff safe and healthy to ensure adequate staffing at the center. Recruitment efforts continue for a number of key positions. The Fire Communications Manager recruitment will be relaunched in the next few weeks, and we hope to see an increase in the number of qualified candidates. Conditional offers have been made and accepted for one of the 2 vacant fire dispatch positions and the vacant information systems tech 2 position. Background investigations are in progress for both. The design phase of the pending communications center remodel continues with good progress toward the eventual new center being located in the old administrative building. So I know that was a mouthful. The fire, and I felt it was all very pertinent to read those things, especially the portion where we see that's 6 vacancies they're trying to fill, and they had to relist one of them. It's tough getting folks to be first responders right now. It's tough. So if anybody knows anyone interested in being a dispatcher or a fire inspector, I believe those positions are still available on the county's website. So that concludes the CHP update I wanted to give and the chief's report from January. I have one other thing that I'm going to read as part of my report. Okay. So we have some talking points. Okay, hold on just a second. That's not right. There we go. My records were all in the same place, and I pulled up November 1, 2020. That is Those are not the talking points I want to read to anybody. Okay. Okay, so from our health department, the federal government will begin mailing, if you request, via the covidtest.gov website. If you'd like to order home COVID test kits, I will put the website down in the chat. And from a resident I spoke with today, they're saying it's taking about 2 weeks before they start to ship, was the information that was shared with me. Okay. The test will be mailed in 7 to 12 days, with the first batch arriving in late January. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Postal Service are partnering on the project and on a new web page that also includes information about insurance reimbursement for purchasing rapid antigen tests and a database of PCR testing sites across the county. Rapid antigen tests can be used at home and provide a test result within 15 to 30 minutes. Contra Costa Health Services is helping to distribute home test kits in the community. Our office has participated in that. You may have received some of our emails when we had large quantities of test kits that we were distributing. The need is tremendous. So the hope is that the system that is now being set up, has been set up by the federal government, will get test kits to folks in a timely fashion. Distributing them out of our office in El Cerrito, if you've ever been, Mr. Sargent, you were in line and I got to see you. That was a long line you were in. So we're hopeful that the distribution from the federal government through our postal service will make this a lot easier for folks. They'll just show up at the house and everything will be good to go. We enjoyed having folks come out, but I'd rather you get them at home. Okay, let's see. Due to staffing shortages at our COVID-19 call center and high call volume, the COVID-19 call center is experiencing longer than usual wait times. So that's if you have to refer anyone, just something for them to keep in mind. Also, maybe not necessarily in this instance, but there have been more folks out of the office due to the widespread of the Omicron variant. It's affected every single department. So that may be, although they don't say that's what it is, but we have to take that into consideration. Kaiser Permanente is notifying about 3,900 patients who received doses of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine last fall at its Walnut Creek Medical Center that may have gotten less than a full dose during their visit, according to a statement from Kaiser. So if you know of someone that applies to, they received a dose of Pfizer last fall in Walnut Creek, they haven't been contacted, they should reach out to Kaiser. Only Kaiser members who have been notified by the HMO are potentially affected. Patients who receive Moderna or Johnson & Johnson vaccines are not affected. The dosing errors occurred between October the 25th and December 10th of last year. Okay. The homeless point in time count delayed to February due to COVID surge. The annual survey of Contra Costa residents who are experiencing homelessness has been rescheduled to February 24th this year due to the current COVID-19 surge. The count, required by the federal government biennially for all local jurisdictions that receive U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development funds to combat homelessness, is traditionally held in mid-January. Our office has been a location over the years. Given the recent COVID-19 surge in positive cases and hospitalizations across our community, as well as the impact that COVID-19 has had on staff capacity across our homeless service providers, requested the postponement to ensure a safe, reliable, and valid count. County residents staying in shelters will now be surveyed on the night of February 23rd, followed by a survey of unsheltered residents during the early morning hours of February 24th. We are seeking volunteer teams of 2, people in a quote pod, comfortable being in a car together, to assist with the unsheltered count on February 24th between the hours of 5 a.m. and 10 a.m. To register to volunteer, complete the survey using the link. I'm going to put it down in the chat. If anyone's interested. And lastly, do not visit the hospital emergency room for a COVID-19 test unless seriously ill. Health officials urge people not to go to emergency rooms to get COVID-19 tests unless they're seriously ill. Going to ERs increases someone's risk of being exposed to COVID and distracts medical staff from treating people with health emergencies. The increase in those seeking testing at hospital emergency departments comes at a time when people are having difficulty finding home test kits, timely testing appointments in the community. People with COVID-19 symptoms should stay home and follow health guidance for isolation until they can get tested. So I read a mouthful of a lot of different things there. So from our council members, are there any questions for me? Okay. And
Thank you
Any
for all the
questions,
information.
any questions or comments from the public? Okay.
let's see, I'm going to unmute. Okay, I was trying to unmute some of the person on the phone in case they had a comment. Okay, maybe they can, yep. The person on the phone, did you have a comment?
No, I was just saying I have no comment. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
There is a hand raised. I think Fran Capoletti has, I don't know if that's,
I can't see.
Oh, I was waiting for another item, I think, although I just like to say it's my second meeting to attend as a president. Nice to hear this. I'm reminded of lately me noticing I have to remind myself about street sweepers because a lot of people don't remember that. Things in the news about gas appliances that I love and know maybe we're changing things about that. But no, I'll wait till I think the other item comes up.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So I know that there was some concern about a potential City of Richmond safe parking location at Waypoint Christian Fellowship Church on Solano Avenue. I know that there were some individuals that wanted to speak about that. We will have that time down during our public comment, but in the email that I sent out with the agenda, I did include a note that that application had been withdrawn and the planning director, Lena Velasco, informed Supervisor Joya, and that's where that came from and why it's not on the agenda this evening. So included that note, but I don't know if everyone received my email. So I just thought I would share that because I'm pretty sure that there were some folks that were interested in that. So that'll probably take us to our discussion item.
So in our discussion items, I recall we had talked about putting historical information in and around East Richmond Heights, which I know I volunteered to do part of. We haven't really kicked anything off the ground, I think, officially. Joanne?
yeah, well, I asked James, discussed this with James and asked him to put it on the agenda. And it's something my background's in is historic preservation and architecture. And I've been thinking about this for some time as a part of our regular agenda to have a really short 5 to 10 minute informational presentation that would offer some background and history of features in and around our wonderful neighborhood. And just recently, I received an email from one of my neighbors who happens to be at this meeting, Fran Capoletti. And the email said, I don't know you and you don't know me, but we happen to know a lot of the same people. And our connection was historic preservation. And so we started talking and we came up with, I told him I had been thinking about this for a long time. And we came up with a proposal to possibly add this as a regular agenda item, as long as we have something to share. Fran and I have agreed that we would switch off giving a presentation to start and kick it off at least, and see who else we might get that might be interested in giving a presentation. But there are so many interesting things about our neighborhood. There's many historical things. We talked about the first presentation would be on Alvarado Park. It's not, I think it's not technically in the boundaries, but it's our neighbor. And I don't even know how many people know that this isn't listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It has great and deep history. And I think we'd like to let people in the neighborhood know about that. I don't know how many people are attending. As I see this, I was just wondering, is there a way to get it out besides this meeting once we do a presentation, or to make it available online somehow once we do a presentation? But I guess I'm seeking comments, advice, or direction from the rest of the MAC council members on this possibility.
John, Victoria, or Stephanie, any input on kind of a yay or nay kind of thing to a historical item being on the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like for us to go ahead and do that. I can contribute a lot of stuff. Do it in categories. And maybe what I would do first, James, is I'm going to email you this. Now, you may have it, but why don't we kick this little project off with this 1913 newspaper article about East Richmond Heights, the Skyline Boulevard. It's a one page, and James, maybe we could use this as a thing to start it off. East Richmond Heights in 1913, the subtitle was The Garden of the Gods. And so I know I'm reaching way back, but in categories as we do different things, I think we should definitely do it. And I'd look forward to, anyone who has, historical, valid information, just let's put together a list and share it.
Well, I think that Fran has offered to do the first one on and do a lot of research and do a 5 to 10 minute presentation with visuals, I guess, on Alvarado Park. I had thought about doing the next one on the history of our little Arlington Market. And Fran and I had discussed a number of other possibilities. So I don't know if we want to create a subcommittee to sort of flush this out and talk about, set up dates or topics where someone can do a more in-depth presentation on one particular feature of the neighborhood at a time.
So I will frame it like this. This is not me shying away from more work. But if we make it a subcommittee, then we have to notice it with the Brown Act and all those. So I'm not opposed to doing that, but I think we can meet informally as long as there are no more than 2 members talking about it at a time. Now, if you want a subcommittee, like, again, not shying away from any of the work, I'm happy to do it. But it's not as flexible, you will, if we're meeting otherwise. I'm happy to attend the meetings as well, too. I'm a bit of a history buff, and I inherited that from my father, and would love to learn more about the area. So I'm very happy to add it, but I would like for Stephanie and Victoria, I think Victoria nodded her head yes, but I want to make sure that we do kind of hear from everyone. And if your comment is good, nothing, cool, but I want to make sure that we afford everyone an opportunity to speak.
I'm interested. I mean, I love architecture. That's why I'm a realtor. But I also, I've lived here my whole life, so I would like to learn more in-depth information about these places. I mean, I live around the corner from the Arlington markets. I'd love to know the whole history on that place. And I hike up in the hills. There's that old sanitarium or something, some kind of old building. I'd like to know more about that. So yeah, I'm into it.
Awesome.
Well, I
Is
have
there
a
a
question.
public comment? I just didn't know if that's.
I have one question. If we did have two persons from the MAC, would it be possible to have a citizen member of that also?
Sure, if it's not a Brown Act group, absolutely, anyone can participate.
Okay.
And we're
Or they
going
can
to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I guess they can come to the meeting because Fran is interested in this, and I would like to include him in on framing this piece.
Absolutely. Yeah, he did attend one way or the other, but I want to make sure we get Stephanie's comments real quick. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I am a professional historian, so I absolutely, I don't study this area. I'm not even specialist in NorCal, but I'd love to find out more about the neighborhood. I mean, the one comment I have off the top of my head is this envisioned as, presentations that the MAC would mostly be responsible, like individual members researching and presenting. Are we going to try to find external, like community members, and maybe even contact, local architectural historical societies, try to recruit speakers? I'm not really understanding exactly what the vision is with this. I'd love to participate, but my plate is super full with work, but.
Well, we have, just to answer your question, and Fran will chime in here too in a minute, as soon as we finish our council discussion. What we had talked about is just starting it out with the two of us and see where it went. Maybe we need to frame it somehow or set parameters, or but that we're willing to kind of do the research and to start it, to make presentations, and then just to see as it rolls along how it may evolve as we go through it from each meeting. We'd like to make it a short presentation. We'd like to make it a very focused presentation, and one that has been researched and has some significant history to the neighborhood. And who knows what we'll hear from or what can be found when we start this. So it's kind of open. I mean, that's as far as we've got.
No forced participation. We're not giving any homework. This is an opt-in, volunteer, if you want to kind of thing.
So I also see there being a lot of public interest in this, and something that we might want to, put up notification, like, or even, put it up on Nextdoor, or say like, and people interested in the subject, we're going to do presentation at East Richmond Heights Council. Here's the topics, and give them like a schedule. I mean, I could definitely see it becoming something more like that, and that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I was wondering if we did a presentation like tonight, we have 10 people here. So is there any way to record that or make it available and
so when
online?
we post them, so I record the meetings and then we upload them to YouTube, but I'm pretty sure I can cut just that segment out. So it's only, the 5 or 10 minute portion of it. I haven't done it, but I'm real confident that I can do it.
Well, that sounds great, because so hopefully we'll have a little site where people can just log on and listen to a specific topic they might be interested in. So it gets further than people who attend the MAC.
So, but I'd like to give Fran the floor and let Fran speak now.
Yeah, if I could take a couple minutes of your time. I am interested in history. I work every Thursday at Berkeley Architectural Heritage Association. I don't know if you ever heard of BAHA. They do house tours, and we research any building in Berkeley. And I've also been active in Marin County, the towns there. And one thing I started doing, one of the towns has a property owners association. And every month I give a 5-minute talk. That's all that we have to work with, and it works pretty well. I'd love to go 10 minutes, but you can tailor something to 5 too. And, I get around the Bay Area, but I've had property here since 2008, not as long as some of you, but it's good to kind of pay attention. Where do I live? What is there about it that's of interest? And the more I dig, there's stories. And I'm sure John has his own history, has probably been here a lot longer than me. And I loved, like, he has that headline, all the dreams. This once was going to be the Piedmont of this part of the Bay Area. And I think we're better off not being that. But I think those are some of the stories. And if you look at my background, that's somewhere from the Arlington in 1914. So that's something I kind of like to put up there and think about what did we look like not so long ago. So if that just gives a little background at the places it's worked before, understanding we want to make it interesting and effective, but not go overboard. So if you do want to have the participation, happy to do the first, second, or third. You know, I don't have to be first, but I'd love to work with Joanne and anyone else to kind of get this run.
Thank you. I think it's so interesting that there's a lot of people here who have backgrounds in history now. We're finding out. Stephanie, I didn't know that about you, but I did historic preservation for the city of Oakland for 15 years. So, and we did a similar thing with Oakland because I staffed the Historic Preservation Commission. And we did a landmark 5-minute presentation every month, and we recorded them. And then they were, so over the 10 years, we've got a lot of information on every single landmark in city of Oakland. And then after I retired, I also worked at Oakland Heritage Alliance. So we've got a lot of people here with a lot of background and interest in history. And it's nice to know that. I didn't know that before.
So I just have a comment, Joanne, I kept hearing you say we, and I'd like to nominate you and Fran to be the historians for the East Richmond Heights MAC. I don't know if we want to think of a better title than that, but rather than a committee, if you both would accept that, I think that would be fantastic. And then we can, you know, we have somewhere to funnel this and someone just coordinate this stuff as it goes up in the future. So do you all accept? You too. Okay, Fran, you
do you accept?
If
so
I could add one more thing too, it's like
yes.
That was important to point out things like the Brown Act. I have to navigate when I talk to members of the Landmarks Preservation Commission and other places, things like that. So it's good to keep those things in mind, but I think this can work smoothly.
So maybe we could meet. Maybe we can meet with you, James, just to keep it tied in to the MAC. That way, we could just set up a time to meet.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Fran, do you have my email address?
Yes, I do. I'm now getting your reminders, and I know how to reach you.
Okay. So if you're getting them from me, that means that I've got your email. So I will email you and Joanne so we can set up some time to talk.
Yeah. Eleanor
Blake has her hand up, John.
Thank you. I think it's a great idea. I think it would be really fun to create a self-guided walking tour with all of these things and some of the photos, like the one behind Fran. Year before last, the Richmond Museum of History had a photo that I was looking for. I used to have it right behind me, of the entry to Alvarado Park. That's a 100-year-old photo, and with a party of people there with their 1920s automobiles. I think that would just really be fun. And there are some places that lend themselves to signs. And, you know, for people who would just let a sign be on their building, for instance, the Arlington Market, we have so many graphic designers in the neighborhood who I bet would be happy to donate some time for something like that.
I like it.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this topic? Okay, well, congratulations, Joanne and Fran, and we look forward to working with you. You know, I won't go into, I have so much stuff.
Yeah.
You know, right through that wall over there is John Perdigo in the house of Manuel Perdigo, who built the Arlington Market. We've been neighbors since we were little kids. And I know that he has resources I don't think he's shared. I know that some of the early ads and things like that on the Arlington Market would be great to to reveal. And then I personally am one of those rare people that got to go in to the Belgium sanitarium when I was to a youth camp. And so I would love to share that. I have some pictures and stories from that thing out there. But anyway, with that, I'd like to move on then into public comment for items not on the agenda. There are two things I had made a note on that we probably want to talk to, but I know that we've got Tom Harriman and who is the other one? I'm sorry, Eleanor. The two of you that have some things you'd like to talk about. Who'd like to go first?
And Mr. Harriman, I shared your PDF in the chat. So people that are logged on, you can see the PDF that Mr. Harriman sent to me.
Okay, thanks very much, James. I appreciate that. I live on Felix Avenue, and I've been in East Richmond Heights for 6 years or going on 7 years, I think. And it's a wonderful neighborhood, fantastic area. And I'm so glad that we moved here. And I'm really glad to see this outpouring of community concern that's coming out of the group that's meeting here tonight. It's very encouraging and gratifying to see it. So I'm glad to be here. But I'm a volunteer with SOS Richmond, which I've been working with homeless people for the last couple of years. And we were instrumental in bringing up the safe parking program that was recently proposed at Waypoint Church. And the idea was to provide a safe area where people who are now living on the streets in their cars or RVs could park in an area that had security, that had sanitation, that had trash pickup, that had where we could develop a small community even and help people live legally and safely in a protected area in a neighborhood as part of a community. And in the document that I sent in to James, which he's sharing in the chat, I identified one of the families that was a prospective family for possibly moving into Waypoint and living in an RV. It's a family of 6 with 4 children and a father that works full time, a mother who spends most of her time taking care of her kids, and this family and many others like them cannot afford to rent an apartment anywhere in the East Bay area because the rents are so high, and not only the monthly rent, but the security deposit and the credit check and all the other conditions that landlords apply are barriers to them. So we have a lot of people living on the streets. Many of them are working full time or part time and struggling to survive. In the safe parking area, safe parking proposal was one way that we thought we could help them. So I was very disappointed when the Waypoint Church backed out of the plan to host a safe parking area. And one of the reasons that they did that was there was an outpouring of opposition from community members. They inundated, maybe some of you did too, sent messages to the pastor objecting and criticizing the church for hosting the safe parking. And it was a setback for the families, and I think a setback for the community, because I think everybody in the community is in some way responsible or can be responsible to deal with the issue of homelessness. There are over 1,000 people in the West County area suffering from homelessness right now. Some of them live in tents, some in RVs, some are sleeping in their cars, and some people live on their streets, live on the streets. So the family that I talked about, I think we're looking for other ways to house them. In the meantime, my idea is that I was hoping that Supervisor Joya could engage not only the MAC but other people in the community and start a discussion on how ordinary citizens can learn about and take part in discussions about homelessness and help to find solutions for homelessness in the community. And if he could do that, and if we would support Supervisor Joya doing that, I think it would add a lot of depth to the issue and a lot of support for people that are really suffering through homelessness in their lives. So I want to propose that, and I spelled that out in the article in the document that I gave to James. I hope you'll all take a look at it, and if you have any questions or concerns about homelessness and about what SOS Richmond is doing, please get in touch with me. I'd be glad to talk to you and be glad to get your ideas on how we should proceed. So thanks a lot for the chance to talk to you tonight. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Eleanor, are you going to speak along the same lines?
Yes, I just had a couple of quick things. I just posted into the chat 2 links. The Turner Center at Berkeley, I guess everybody can see that in the chat, is part of the Haas Business School. And there, I think the full name is the Turner Center for Housing Innovation. They've done a lot of work on accessory dwelling units, all kinds of housing policy. And just last month, they came out with a new piece on, as the title says, addressing foundations of homelessness in the Bay Area, which is really good at identifying what is going on, that we're all seeing an increasing number of individuals and families living however they can, but not in houses. And the second piece, which is a couple of years old, from Cal Matters, I think everybody might know them, a nonprofit news system out of Sacramento, but it includes some myth breaking. And in particular, the one that I like that's in there is people think that homeless people are coming here from somewhere else because we have good benefits and good weather and whatever. And the research showed that 96% of homeless people, as of anyway a couple of years ago, were not merely from California, but they were from the area where they were living in a tent or RV or car. That these are neighbors who've been evicted, who lost a job, whose rent got increased, and that they are our neighbors who now have no house. So that's all. And I thought that, John does these messages. We all got one today on various topics of interest to West County. And one of those could be on the homeless situation. And the Turner Center would probably be willing to help put it together, I'll bet. I know he's done some stuff with them on ADUs. That's all. And the MAC could have, if you folks were interested, but there could be a report. The county is doing a lot on homeless issues, although of course, with minimal staffing and funding, that's how things are. But there could be a report to the MAC from any of the several agencies working on that in the county on what they are doing in West County and what solutions they have in mind for the future.
So I was still on mute there. I made a note of that, Eleanor.
Yeah,
We'll reach out to H3 we'll reach out to H3 as we call it, and see about them making a presentation at a future meeting.
Joanne, I see your hand was up.
I was just going to say, I really support that. And I hope we can get someone to come out and give us a report from the county and what the county's doing. I think that's a terrific idea and a good place to start the conversation.
Okay.
Maybe they can even have some suggestions how to proceed from there.
Okay. Any other council members with questions or comments?
I mean, homelessness is a huge issue. I think everybody needs to be involved.
Okay, any questions or comments from anyone else? I have one, but I want to offer it to you first.
We're still at public comment if folks have other things that.
That's right, we do. You know, I will just say, I've read everything I could, you know, and we're reading as this unfolded through social media, through Nextdoor, and then Richmond's Facebook, where it really got inflamed. It seems to me that the way this whole thing arose, as far as Waypoint, is that it was kept secret, was launched through the city of Richmond. And I looked at the property boundary line right there, the parking lot. Those are two parcels, but the city line goes around that parking lot. And nobody from East Richmond Heights or unincorporated Richmond was consulted or advised. And then all of a sudden this thing is going haywire. So I think the way this thing crystallized at the beginning was wrong. You know, it should have brought us into it. It should have brought in the Richmond Heights group, which did get into it. And I watched that too. And, you know, I'm not going to talk about all the positive, all the negative. You know, these people batted this thing all over the place, as you know, and it really turned ugly. But I think that to consider a place, and we'll keep this in East Richmond Heights, if that's going to be decided again, then the first people that need to know about it is this group and the residents that would be impacted. I know that there were residents across the street in unincorporated Richmond, around on the other side, that were just incensed that this was brought in by the city of Richmond and SOS. You know, and I've learned, my effort was to try to understand all sides of this. But, you know, one of the things I saw that Tom Budd had posted is that SOS did not even need to talk to the neighborhood council about this proposal. It just got launched. And the proposal itself did not fit in with the city's rules, which was only 4 RVs. So when I read that, and then I saw, well, they've got a couple buses and a couple cars, you know, that's what went wrong with this thing, was how this thing began at the very beginning. And, you know, I agree, we've got issues that have to be resolved, but, you know, I just felt, you know, the way that this thing came about was presented wrong from the beginning, you know. So now maybe let's take a look at this and let's work with John Joya and see what we can do along the lines that you guys just described. So that's just a personal opinion. I know that a lot of the neighbors down there share that, though, because that's what, you know, the feedback I got from them. So is there anything else on this, Stephanie?
Yeah, just to kind of, you know, back up what John's saying, that was my sense of this too, is that just a lot of people were taken by surprise and felt like they've been left out of the political process. And obviously we're not City of Richmond. We didn't have a voice in this at all. I do know that the county's looking at creating a similar ordinance. I don't know if they're going to pass it in the kind of emergency ordinance way that Richmond City Council did, which didn't require much consultation at all. They did it in one meeting vote because it was emergency. But I hope that whatever the county does, if they decide to look at doing a scatter site safe parking RV program, that they do more of a process of consultation. And we definitely should, as a MAC, I think, be, you know, talking to Supervisor Joya, giving input, hearing his perspective, and, you know, I absolutely agree. This is an issue that needs to be addressed. But, you know, I do think that neighbors need to be involved in the process of putting it forward.
Joanne.
Yeah, well, I absolutely agree. And I understand that SOS did give some presentations to local churches, because I heard that they were received very positively in those presentations. And you know, it's unfortunate that it didn't come to the MAC for a presentation. And I know, I mean, we only meet every other month, but certainly there could be an emergency meeting if there's something like this comes up. So, and I think that's one of the reasons the MAC is here, to disseminate information about issues like this in a non-biased way, and to let people talk and to hear, not only to respond, but to have something legitimate to respond to. So I don't even know who the right people are to get the message. I don't know if they knew that there was a MAC, or why they didn't come to a neighborhood, or why they came to some churches, or was it by invitation? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Somehow there's a miscommunication. And even with Lena Valesco, I don't know if she contacted your offices about this, James, or contacted Supervisor Joya
After the fact.
after the fact.
We
So
didn't
that's,
know. Yeah, we were notified by an East Richmond Heights resident, and that's sort of when John and I began to respond and try to understand what's going on. I read the ordinance a couple times, and I've got my highlighted version with my notes on it, but we didn't know ahead of time. And in fact, in the ordinance, it talks about not notifying the neighborhood council until after the permit has been approved. So I don't know, other than to approach probably the mayor's office, or write to the city manager's office a letter asking the city to maybe revise some of the portions of the notification piece. For sure, Supervisor Joy and I understand that that's where most of everyone's angst was coming from, was hearing about this after the fact. And what I would encourage everyone to do is write the safe parking email address these comments. Write them and say, is there an opportunity for us to revise the notification process? It's always good, and we gladly contact our counterparts in the cities on issues all the time, but there is nothing like feedback one way or the other from residents directly to the government. People send comments directly to me for John. And they have this system built in place. So the safe parking email, folks have concerns, direct your comments that way. Send them, say that, my issue is A, B, C, and D. Who can I speak to? Is there an opportunity for us to revise and have, broader discussion about how this is implemented? I think those are questions that people should be asking, and I'm happy to be involved in any meetings, but some of this needs to sort of be resident led. People need to send these comments in that way. But all the feedback from tonight's meeting, of course, will go to Supervisor Joya. He and I will talk, and I will do more than convey the sentiments here this evening. And because not everyone that contacted our office was against it. So there were lots of people against, but there were lots of people for. And I just think the one thing that everyone said, who was in favor and who was against, and the folks that I'm saying against weren't really against supporting folks experiencing homelessness. It was mainly a response to this notification process that people feel didn't happen. And that's what John and I, Supervisor Joy and I, have talked about, and we will talk about either tomorrow or Friday. But I think that's probably a good way for people to start. Let's start asking the city of Richmond for folks that want to, asking them to take a look at how folks are notified for this, I think is an important part.
Okay, Tom has his hand up.
Yeah, hi. I just want to say that I read the comments on Nextdoor and heard various kinds of feedback from people, and nobody that I know of said, let's see if we can find a way to have this safe parking in our neighborhood. And the underlying message that I saw, that I read, and that I heard was that, yeah, we want to help homeless people, but not in our neighborhood. We don't want homeless people here, and let's see if we can help them someplace else away from us. And I think that was the underlying message, not only here in East Richmond Heights, but at Hilltop, at Civic Center, and other places where we've tried to set up safe parking programs. It's a very difficult issue, and I think it requires a lot of introspection and self-awareness on the part of the neighborhood. What are we willing to do to help the less fortunate people in our community? I think I hope we could all be thinking about that. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you.
Yeah.
Hey, Joanne?
I have a question for Mr. Harriman. Have they been successful in setting any up anywhere in Richmond or near and around here?
Not so far. We do have some applications pending, and we're hopeful. But in every case that I'm aware of so far, which is about 3 or 4, neighborhood opposition to having homeless people in their neighborhood is very strong. And homeless people are usually accused of being drug addicts, prostitutes, drunks, and thieves and criminals of various kinds. But if you actually go out and meet some of the homeless people, like the Castillo family that I talked about in my PDF document that I sent around, these are people that are working hard, that are down on their luck, that have been evicted, unemployed, stricken with illness, victims of domestic violence, a whole variety of causes and problems that result in living on the street. And they're people just like us in many ways.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Harriman.
Any other questions or comments on this topic?
You mean during public comment?
Yes, correct. Okay, thank you all for this and the discussion. And then James, I guess you have it, I guess is an action item to discuss with John.
Yep, got my notes here. You and I will talk.
All right, so we're still in public comment. Who has something they'd like to discuss? Stephanie.
I think I ask this basically every meeting, but is there going to be an East Richmond Heights Music and Arts Festival possibly this summer?
So fingers crossed. I hope so. I've not spoken with the folks that put it together. So my answer is I hope so. I've not heard from the folks that put it together, but hopefully if we can, if COVID allows us, I hope so. But no, I've not heard anything yet. Believe me, when I do, yes or no, whether it's a yes or no, you all will find out.
I'll talk to a couple of neighbors to see, does it look like we're going to get it done this time? We've got the room over there at that vacant lot, which is being maintained, by the way, by Mr. Sweet, who lives next door. I just saw him cutting the grass over there. And he also builds the bandstand and provides the electricity for to have it work. And then we have Armando, who, sort of had shared it in the past, and it was only COVID. It's the only reason why, we weren't able to carry it forward, but I'll reach out and see what I can find out about that. Is there anyone else that has a topic? Eleanor, I can't remember, were you the one who mentioned street sweeping? Okay. I would like to bring up street sweeping because I have seen for East Richmond Heights, the street sweepers, they come regularly once a month. Nobody moves their cars. People don't know, except for those of us who see it. I almost want to ask James to let us know, could we take a look at how much taxpayer money we're spending on that, because it's almost a useless program up here. The streets are not getting cleaned, and the truck goes down. I took pictures this last time they were around. I just picked 3 streets up here. And you can see on the ground, they go down the middle of the street because there's cars on both sides and they can't get to the curb to clean it. And I don't think we're going to put up signs that say, don't park your car here on this day of the month. So I'd like to open that up for discussion. Fran, your hand's up.
I just want to claim, yeah, I think I brought it up earlier, and it's just one of those things I happen to look out, and my neighbor always moves her car, and she has a beautiful curb afterwards. So maybe it's a communication or not. And I think I read years ago where Richmond was putting in signs in Richmond when I lived in the annex, and there was a movement against having the signs, but I don't know. I wonder if the signs at least make people realize what's happening. So that's all.
I have no idea what day of the week or what day of the month they're coming. I don't get any notifications, and I've been living here 32 years.
Yeah, I had to look it up. First Monday, I think.
Oh, first Monday of each month?
I think.
I think it's Wednesday.
Well,
But
yeah,
it is the
they already
first day.
changed it.
I will find out from our public, I think it's Public Works, has the contract for that. For some time there was, don't quote me on this, but for some time they were looking for, there's an open contract to have a street sweeper. And I apologize, the last 2 years with COVID has sort of smushed 2017 to 2022 all together in my mind a little bit. So what happened last year may have happened 4 years ago, but there was a time where we couldn't fill the vacancy. There was a contract to have street sweeping, to have a street sweeper. No one applied for it. I guess the RFP process sort of went out. I don't, we don't know what happened there. So I will check. I'm fairly confident that there is street sweeping taking place throughout West County right now. You were saying, John, that you've seen it.
I see them every month.
I will find the schedule. I will find the schedule.
Okay.
It's probably not likely that we'll get signs, but that's one of the things the MAC can do is get the information and disseminate it. And
we need to let the neighbors know. I mean, I'm all for having clean streets, but it's not happening. And it has been for a long time. Elizabeth, you have your hand up. You're muted right now.
Yeah, I've lived here a long time, and the only notice I got about street sweeping was the month that it started, the announcement that it was starting 20, 30 years ago. I don't know why we can't do something simple like putting a notice on Nextdoor. Other agencies do things like that and let people know rather than getting involved in signs, which is a huge nightmare. But a mailing would be expensive, but you definitely would reach a lot of people with Nextdoor. I think it's a good thing to continue because where I live, we get a lot of water and trash flowing downhill from in the rainstorms. And I live next to Adams, where there's a whole very large block that's unoccupied and nobody else would be taking responsibility for it. So I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. Anybody else want to comment on that? Okay. Are there any other public comments about a different topic? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move to information items. I know you have none on the agenda, James, but I'd have to ask, is there any update on the blocked off Kensington Avenue path?
No, there is not.
Okay. The only update that I have is in November. I did receive a couple calls. I spoke to Raymond Graham with code enforcement. He had David Clapperich call me. I sent him the same timeline, which you guys have, James, and he advised, that there were a couple things that were wrong with this whole thing, but that we would hear something, and I haven't heard anything myself. So,
and that was from Mr. Clapperich?
Yes.
Okay, I'll call him.
I spoke to him and Raymond Graham. Raymond Graham said he's with code enforcement,
right,
at the DCD. He said, first Works will be handling this going forward. So
Who-
that's the last update that I have.
he's-
That was Raymond Graham told me that, and then he had David call me.
Okay, so, okay, I'll call Mr. Clark.
So it's still in with Public Works. I don't want to beat this thing again, but this has been on our discussion since June of 2020, when we first saw that the Kensington Avenue path was completely fenced off by a homeowner on Aqua Vista Court, who then sold that house and moved away, and it's still blocked. And it's considered a fire hazard. No one on the Wildcat Canyon side, if we had a wildfire or an earthquake or some other disaster that blocked the top of Richmond Avenue, Kensington Avenue down by Olive, there's no other way out for people who live back there on all the dead end streets. So I'll leave it there. James, if you could follow up and let us know. Subcommittee reports, Land Use Committee, I haven't seen anything lately from that. Is there anything on that, James?
Nope.
All right, announcements. Our MAC has 2 alternate seats vacant. Contact James Lyons. Victoria, did you ever talk to the neighbor up behind?
No, Pam Delaney. I really need to talk to her. I have not seen her recently, but I will
Okay.
ask her if she'd like to come next time.
And we have received 1 applicant. We have 1 resident that's trying to apply, but there's some technical issue they're having with their computer. So we're gonna get that figured out, but there is someone who's applied for one of the alternate seats, who wants to apply for one of the alternate seats.
Okay. All right. And then agenda items, speakers for upcoming MAC meetings. I know we touched on that and made some notes at the last one. So let's open that for discussion. But do we have something, or do you have some ideas?
So I've got the ideas written down from the last couple of meetings that we've had. So I've got a list here in the office for both the El Sobrani and East Richmond Heights MACs. And that's sort of at the beginning of the year, we try to get the East Bay Mud, the wastewater district, but just kind of scheduling things prevented some of that when I sent my emails out for them. So we'll be looking to have many of them present in March. So I will be looking for East Bay Mud to give an update, West County Wastewater District to give an update. And that's mainly to cover any projects, things that may be happening this year. I'd like them to, make an appearance and come and speak to everyone. So I made the request. They couldn't work it out for January. So I'll be doing that again until they say yes. So hopefully we'll get them here in March.
James, can you make sure they prioritize that station? I think it's on Carquinez, where they have the transfer pump to pump water uphill. Remember that? They said, oh, we have water up in that tank up on Del Monte that they could access for a fire. But I mean, I live around the corner from the one on Carquinez, so I'd be really happy to know that they could have a transfer pump to go 1 block up.
Okay.
We've been
Shoot me an
talking
email
for
about that
months.
because I know the wastewater district has installed generators as backups for some of them. So sounds like an East Bay Mud question.
Yeah, well, so, and let me just say this. I did finally get an email after our last meeting from Charlotte Sullivan. And I thought I sent it to you, James. If I didn't, then I can pull that out. But the East Bay Mud position on the Carquinez pumping station, there's enough water up in the tank. So if we were to have a wildfire, they said there's enough water there. Because, my whole question was, if PG&E cuts us off because they're cutting neighborhoods,
right?
That's the pump that runs on electricity to refill that tank, and it happens all the time.
Right.
But East Bay Mud felt that they had enough water up there to last several days. And James, do you remember saying that? If not, let me do this. I'll send you her email, which was sort of like they said, we don't have a generator at that station because we have this much water in the tank. That's essentially what it came down to.
My concern is they might be underestimating. I think it's better to have a generator set up.
I agree with you 100%. But so Yeah, James, I'll send you that email from her, and then you can distribute it to our council.
Yes, sir.
Because at that point, she answered my question is, no, there's not a generator going in there because we have enough water in the tank.
I think we should be a squeaky wheel then. I think we should be a squeaky wheel. Because I think it's important.
Yeah. Okay.
Joanne?
So
Your hand.
I was just curious about the school situation, and do we have any new information on that? Do we need to get new information? Is anything coming up soon?
So I've heard nothing about Adams. So I don't know anything. If someone hears something, don't ever assume that our office finds out. So if you hear something and you are concerned about it, do call me or email me. Information appears to only exist on Nextdoor and nowhere else, and we don't get to see what happens on Nextdoor. So we are not privy to the discussions on there. So if you see something, someone's talking about something, understand that there are 9 people in our meeting, but there are probably hundreds of people on Nextdoor. The chance that that information gets to me would only come from someone who's in contact with our office. So I rarely know what's going on until someone intentionally reaches out to our office. So if you see or hear something, you have a question or concern, do ask, because I 50-50 may or may not know about it.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, you have your hand up. You're on mute.
Thanks. I think it's West County Wastewater that's working on projects around here. And about every other day I leave the house and another street is closed or it would be really nice to have some updates from them about what, and I know they intend to do a lot of work in our part of town. And I'm just constantly getting to the end of a block and finding I have to go a different way than yesterday. So, thanks.
I'll make sure. I'll definitely email them all tomorrow.
Okay, so with that, is there anything else? Anything for the good of the order? Seeing none, then I want to thank all of you. We'll adjourn the meeting. James, is there anything else that I need to do now?
Meeting's over when we get to the end of the agenda. Nothing
Okay.
special.
Yeah, your homework assignment is to go through all of our architectural pictures that you may have. And I'm going to do the same. I've actually sold some houses where they had stuff they were throwing away. And I'm like, these old pictures of our areas. I started grabbing things, back when it was all just hills, no houses. So, and I don't know if you guys know Michael Mejia. He lives in actually Richmond View. So down by McBride, he has a big palm tree in his front yard, but he's a real historian too. So I could ask him if he has any more information. When it's my turn to do a presentation, I can do one.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Okay.
everyone. Have a good evening. Stay safe. Don't let the COVID-19 bug get you. And I look forward to seeing everyone in March. If you have things for me between now and then, been saying it in El Sobrani for years, please don't wait to the meeting to ask me. If you know about it now, ask me now so we can have answers at the meetings. I like to have more answers than questions. So if something comes up, please reach out to me and don't wait till our next meeting. Thank you very much, everyone, and I will see you in March.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
The date again in March?
16.
March 16th.
Thank you, John.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
All
good
right,
night.
bye, everybody.
Hey, John.
Yeah,
John, Victoria, what's your phone number again? I'll give you a call.
my home number here is 510